Hello everyone, welcome back. In the previous videos, what we learned is we learned how we can run a simple PHP script from command line from the terminal, and we mentioned specifying where the PHP interpreter is from the in the first line, with the um, hash and exclamation mark and the rest of it, and then we learned how to connect to MySQL server by specifying host name, port number, username, and password. And we spoke about the MySQL connect function. I've added here this comment here, so it makes things clearer. And this comment will be always there when you download the source code. Now, um, in this tutorial, we're going to learn three things at the same time. We're going to learn how to create, after we connect, of course, after we connect to our MySQL server, we will learn how we can create a database, maybe drop it, delete the database, and then how we can actually select database so we can work on it. So, right? So when we connect to a MySQL server, the natural process, the usual process is that we connect, select a certain database, and then start to work on this database by adding or removing tables, modifying tables, adding records to tables, deleting records from tables, and editing tables, and so on and so forth. Now, to create a database, the first thing we need is to, of course, connect first, and the connection is the same way we did it last time. We just basically specify our local host, and these are string values. We can use double quotation if you want. So we'll specify our host, and we said that we can either use the our local host if the MySQL server is installed on our local host, or if it's a remote host, we just need to specify the full address, maybe the IP address, and a port number, and of course we need to have our firewall opening that port so we can make the connection. Anyway, and also we need to create a database and drop it. We need to connect with a user that has privileges or permissions to create and drop databases. Usually this is the root user. I'm just using my root username here for demonstration purposes. Otherwise, it's not recommended to use root user. You need to create another user with this permission of creating and dropping databases. You need to have your root user, I'm sorry, which is the super admin, and then your root user password. This is not my password, this is only for demonstration purposes. I'll show you how you can actually add users in my next videos. Now, again, to connect, we need to use MySQL Connect the usual way with a DB host, which is this, the DB user and DB password. And then, as we explained previously, the MySQL Connect function, it returns a MySQL link identifier if the connection is successful, or it returns false otherwise. So we can check if the connection is false. If not connection, so if it's false, this means this condition will be true. Then just die, just exit with a MySQL connection error. If it's successful, then proceed by printing out, by echoing connected successfully, and then what we do is we can create a database. Now, to create a database, we need to run basically um, an, a MySQL query um, to create that database after connecting, of course. Now, I've prepared this simple MySQL query or MySQL command here to create database. These are in capital case because these are keywords in MySQL, and then I'm going to name it MyDB and save that into a string called SQL. And then after that, we need to use the MySQL query function, which syntax is like this. It returns a boolean value, i.e., if that SQL query executes successfully, then that boolean value is true. Otherwise, it returns false. So MySQL query, what it does is it actually executes a SQL query, which is given here, which is given as a string value here on a connection or connection. I'm sorry, on a link identifier, on a connection link identifier, which we created when connected to our MySQL server. Now, hope this is clear. MySQL query is the function that we need to use. Pass it a SQL query, which is this, to create a database, and pass it a MySQL connection. I'm sorry, which is this. Now, let's try this and see what happens. Now, basically, I need to change the execute permission in this file. I think it's still not executable. Yes, this file here. So what I need to do is just say change mode, and then plus X to add execution, and then what I can do is I can just run it now. Create. It doesn't work because I need to provide my correct root password. I'll just change that in the background so you don't see it quickly. Da, da, da. Let me save it. Now it's saved. Run it again. It connected and it has actually created the MyDB database. Now let me change this again, say to 1 2 3 4 5 6, save again and bring back my PHP script. Now what we want to do after creating the database, we want, say for example, to connect to it. So we'll comment out, and remember commenting out by the double slash. So we'll comment out the connection stuff, and because the database is already created now, we'll just connect to it basically, which is uh, done using the MySQL select DB. Let's name it MyDB as we have created it last time, capital M. So to connect to a database, we need to use MySQL DB function, which syntax looks like this. We need to pass it the database name and the connection object or the connection link identifier. If we don't provide a connection link identifier, it will use the last connection identifier which was actually created. I need to, oh no, I'm sorry, I need to open this because we need to connect to our server, isn't it? I'm sorry, I was wrong here. I need to open these guys. I'm sorry, uncomment them to connect first and then comment out the create database stuff. So instead of running a query, all we need to do is we need to connect to the database and say, for example, result equals MySQL database, MySQL underscore select underscore DB, and provide the database name, and then it returns boolean. If it's true, then the connection was successful. Let's say, for example, connected to database MyDB successfully. Otherwise, it will just print out error. If you remember from last videos, we had user Chris, so we'll just use Chris now. Chris, and then we say Chris, which is the password 2014. Save that. Another look at the script. Connect first, and then select that database so you can run some process on it. We run that, and it says connected to database MyDB successfully. Now, again, let me comment this stuff. I mean, as we mentioned before, it takes two variables. If you don't specify connection, it takes the last connection. But let's just add connection quickly so you know that it's actually working. This connection here is the same here. Save and run, and as you see, it connects successfully. And now, if we want to delete that database, then all we need to do is run the MySQL query function, but this time with a different SQL statement, which is just to drop database, not tutorial now because I was actually experimenting. It's actually called capital M, MyDB. Save that, and then we just run this query to drop the database, and if it's successful, then uh, database MyDB has been deleted successfully or something like that. Yeah. So again, to delete database, we need to use the SQL statement drop database. Again, these are in capital case because they are keywords in MySQL, and then execute that query using the MySQL query function, the usual way we used it when we actually created the database in the first place. But this time again, we are dropping it. So if I save and run, it's actually telling me that user Chris cannot remove the database. Why? Because user Chris does not have this privilege or this permission. Again, I need to connect using my root account. So let me put my username, my username root, and then take this out of your view and provide my root password, which is da 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 da. Save, and then execute, and it's telling me now my database MyDB has been deleted successfully. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I hope it's not too boring. Previously, I said this stuff may not be useful to too many people. No, I think it is actually useful because we're learning two things at the same time here. We're learning how to run PHP script from command line from terminal, and we're also learning how to deal with MySQL DB from inside PHP. Again, I'm going to repeat myself. Anything we're doing here between these angle brackets, you can do this in your PHP web page, so in your an HTML document or on a proper PHP document when you run it on your web server, i.e. on your website. Thank you very much for watching. Another look at the script. You will find this script on my personal web page, which will be available in the comments below the video. Thank you very much for watching again, and I'll see you next time.